Estás viendo Canal América, televisión dominicana para el mundo.
A Time for Truth show is sponsored by the Office of Dr. Bernard Fialkoff, a periodontal, dental implant and laser specialist in New York City, for over 40 years. Dr. Fialkoff was honored by the International College of Dentists and Pierre Fauchard, and received the Presidential Lifetime Humanitarian Honor from the White House. Call us at 718-229-3838.
Sometimes life can be so damn hard. You don't know where to go. Everything keeps falling apart. Yeah. You try to do your best, but only God knows that you've given everything you've got, but the world takes you down. You just keep moving on. Let your fears.
Welcome to A Time for Truth show. I'm your host, Dr. Bernard Fialkoff. It's a pleasure to welcome you back, especially on this holiday edition of A Time for Truth show. We want to wish you all a very happy holiday, and we're looking forward to a tremendous 2025. Tonight's show really is about the holidays because it's about families. Our world has been suffering the malady of drug addiction, of homelessness, of violence, losing loved ones. So many of us have said percentages are not important. A life is not a number. And when we lose a loved one, the suffering and the destruction that occurs in that family unit spreads far. So tonight we're very lucky to have with us all the way from Los Angeles, California, the president of a very important humanitarian group. And so we're going to introduce him to you tonight. From the Way to Happiness International. And Buddha, if you put his picture up on the screen, we'll introduce to our viewers humanitarian Ludwig Alpers. There you see him. President of the Way to Happiness International, an international nonprofit group whose purpose is to bring happiness and flourishing and prospering to all our communities. He's president of the Way to Happiness International, and he was port captain of a major Caribbean cruise line from 1988, where he established collaboration and coordination between many governments of Central America, South America, and Caribbean, affecting all those sovereignties. Mr. Ludwig has led a life devoted to mankind, a selfless existence with a goal of improvement of humanitarian endeavor and prosperity. And Buddha, if you will, let's bring up Mr. Ludwig Alpers live on the Way to Happiness on the Time for Truth show. Welcome, sir.
Welcome, Ben and Dr. Fialkoff. I want to say, from one humanitarian to another, I acknowledge you because the work you've been doing on educating the youth on drug education, on traveling around the world to do so in Latin America, in New York City of New York, and throughout the United States, teaching people the actual problems of drugs. My hat is off to you. And I hope tonight we can share a little bit of wisdom, a little bit of culture, and a little bit of that has made society great and that will make it great again by the simple application of truths. And since it's a time for truth, I'm very happy to be with you tonight and all that are listening, both here in New York and I think in Dominican Republic and across the Caribbean as the show goes. So thank you for having me here, and happy holidays.
Well, it's a pleasure to have you, and it's so important. I want to get right to it because our world is suffering. I'm a surgeon of 44 years. When the patient is bleeding, we've got to take a look at what we've been doing. We've got to reassess, and we've got to go in a different direction. And what I found as a surgeon is that many of the principles that I learned 40-something years ago, which are very basic principles, actually lead to success. Some discoveries were very well founded. Other ones we had to get out of the way and go back to the basics. So I wanted to ask you, what is this Way to Happiness program?
Well, the Way to Happiness program is a book that was written in 1982. It was written at a time when there was a lot of change in society, and there was a movement to go away from like a basic moral codes from the 60s and 70s, and you were feeling it in the 80s, how people had lost their moral compass or their character compass. And this book was written by L. Ron Hubbard, and it was basically the most amazing property because he gave it to the world without being religious and without being political, but answered the basic common questions that one has as to what choices I make, and is something right or wrong, and how does that affect you? But more than that, it gave a tool that another individual could help their community, their friends, also be on a way that's more common sense, more reasonable, and instead of applying impulse in life, to start on the other side to apply reason in life so that you would be happy not only this moment, but for a lifetime.
Makes a lot of sense to me. And you know, the first time I saw the book and I opened it up, I started reading, and what I saw is that many of the things that were innate within me were there. And I realized that my success, because in dental school, I ended up being the valedictorian of the class, but the reason that that happened is that I had actually, without knowing it, applied those principles of competence, of integrity, of production, of flourishing, of respecting others. You know, I respected my professors and my fellow colleagues, my students, and the patients. And it's a very interesting book. So I want to ask you, Mr. Ludwig, how exactly does the Way to Happiness program roll out? How can it be delivered? What are the different options that exist?
Well, the way to distribute this or to get it to your friends is by taking a copy or getting copies of the book, either from the foundation, which would be a generic one, or a custom cover, which could be any kind of cover, whether you're a business or whether you're a school or Boys and Girls Club or scouting organization or church group. You would get the copy with your own cover, and you would basically offer that person that you're finding in your environment that you're having a little bit difficulty with. Now, what tools do you have to change your environment? You have the Way to Happiness, because this book basically covers 57 reasons or solutions to life by this little tiny thin common book. So you basically give it to the individual and you say, I'm giving this to you because your survival is important to me, because you're saying it with integrity, and you're saying that you would like to give this person help. And maybe they're having problems, I don't know, they're messy. So, you know, they don't keep their area clean. And because they don't keep their area clean, they get sick. And they're a liability to you as a company because they keep getting sick, but you know their hygiene is bad. So the first precept would be to take care of yourself and to properly brush your teeth and to get, you know, help by medical treatment when you're ill. These are covered in the book. And the difference between you telling them and a book telling them is a major difference. So it gives you a tool to go over. Well, the guy just stole something from you. And you go, I can't believe I have someone that's going to steal from me. So that person could either be fired or he can be corrected. And if you put a lot of investment or time into it as a businessman, you want to correct him because you don't want to fire him. So what do? Well, it says in the book exactly what you do. It says, do not steal. So you would have them or give them the knowledge of how to apply that in their life. And it's very interesting because this says why somebody steals. And Ben, you know why somebody steals?
No, tell me.
Well, it's covered in the book. It says the person is either cannot make it himself or he's a little crazy. Which one is it?
Very interesting.
And you ask the person this, and they'll usually jog. They'll go, well, I'm a little crazy. Why do I always pick up 10 ketchups from McDonald's and put them in the bag, and at home I have 200 ketchup little bags in the drawer, which I never use? Well, it's free, but it's also really disingenuous because you don't need them. But it's a little crazy that you do it. You see, just to give you an example, everybody likes freeness, but this book covers the reasons why and what the solutions are, and to get the person out of the impulse of activities and get them back thinking reasonably. I mean,
you know what I was going to say? Well, I was going to say, Mr. Alpers, before we leave what you just said, as a business owner myself for 44 years now in the practice of dentistry, I have had so many nice people who were in my practice who started with the best of intentions. And I have seen over the years how for one reason or another, and I'm sure a lot of the people watching this show can attest to the same malady, they change in front of your eyes. And the person who was so wonderful over a few months' time, now they're not the same person anymore. So to me, what you just said is an amazing tool. So let me see if I got this right. So this Way to Happiness program is actually something that can be utilized in the business sector. Is that correct?
100% in the business sector, because you're dealing with a little bit more than 3 generations that have been raised without or very little a moral compass. When I was at the Boys and Girls Club of America convention earlier this year, in I think February or something like that, I was talking to some of the executive directors, and they said, well, the problem today is that 5/6 of the training that a child gets or an adult has is from the media, TikTok, YouTube, social media.
Instagram.
And 1/6 is usually from the parent or school. Okay? In 30 years ago, it was the parent. It was their schooling. It was their community. It was their religion. It was their relationships with their family and outer family. And then it was the media. So we've lost this core value concept in society today. And when I say that is a vast problem of everything that we face today, whether it be the fact that the person turns to drugs, or whether they're non-productive, or whether the person somehow thinks he can come to work to late 20, 30 minutes and everything is okay, they don't have a common value system or a compass in life to enable them the tools to be happy. Because if you make the wrong decisions in life, you're not happy. So it's simplicity in itself, but it's so complex to people because they can't believe it's so simple. But the truth, when you talk about truth, it is always a simplicity. And this book contains the simplicities of life that have not just existed today or in our culture, but has what made civilized culture and the ability for people to live under the same roof. These things. And you're probably wondering, what are these things? Because we really haven't covered much of it. But it's like, to give you an example, it's like, take care of yourself. It's like, be temperate. Don't take alcohol in excess. Don't take harmful drugs. Don't be promiscuous. Love and help children. Honor and help your parents. Set a good example. Seek to live with the truth. Do not murder. Don't do anything illegal. Support a government designed and run for all the people. Do not harm a person of goodwill. Safeguard and improve your environment. Do not steal. Be worthy of trust. Fulfill your obligations. Be industrious. Be competent. Respect the religious beliefs of others. Try not to do things to others that you would not like them to do to you, and try to treat others as you would want them to treat you. And the last one is flourish and prosper. But if you look at the simplicity of this book, it takes you a couple hours to get through it. We have educator kits that we offer free of charge at twth.org. That's thewaytohappiness.org or twth.org, that we send out to educators, community leaders, church leaders, Boys and Girls Club, Boy Scouts, YMCAs, all these after-school programs for the youth. And this kit, which we send complimentary to 15,000 schools in the last 6 months in the United States, we offer this for free because we give them something that is in absence. It's an absence of training today. It's an absence of common sense. And that sense, which is common sense, is often the least used sense. As we see every day in our community, we see the insanity of nonsensical actions by individuals. And the why? The reason? They were never trained in this. They never got the instruction. The family unit didn't do it. You know, I'm sorry. I'll let you talk. I get excited when I talk about this because it's so important to society.
You know what? It's a pleasure to listen to a human being who has common sense. Excuse me for saying the same thing, but I want to tell you something, that you got me to realize something as you were speaking, because the Surgeon General of the United States of America basically published an advisory on the epidemic, and get this, of loneliness and isolation. In other words, what the Surgeon General was saying, let's get this Way to Happiness book in use, because what you said just before about core values, we've lost our core values, and what the Surgeon General found through scientific studies, epidemiological studies, which means over a period of time, studies over a period of time, scientific studies, not philosophies, but facts. And what he found and published, it's online for all the viewers to look at, is that a lack of our social interaction, as we used to have years ago, the too much social media on phones, on laptops, without human communication, phone calls that weren't one-on-one contact personally, that people got more physically ill, more mentally ill. And he also went on to state, which I was really astounded, is that our society and community ills, the violence, the homelessness, the drugs that we're encountering, were due to the lack of what you're saying, of these core values of human relationships, and what this book, The Way to Happiness, is propounding and expounding and promoting. So what I wanted to ask you, because there's so many viewers and leaders watching this program, who watch this program, is, can they just request this for free? Is there some application that they have to go through, or they just go on thewaytohappiness.org and that's it? And lay out exactly what the steps are for those viewers.
First of all, I would go to TWTH, thewaytohappiness.org, and I would log on to the free online course. This is a free course, and it walks you through the book, okay? And there's also a book on film, which makes it, the word for word of the book is shown in pictorial and in movie format. the situations that people get into and why and how the book is used to help improve them so they don't fall into these same problems again. So that course is, I don't know, 3 hours maybe on the weekend. It's like watching a movie almost, you know, and you can actually get, you know, you see the words that you need to understand for the book, and it walks you through. That's a free course we offer. You get a certificate, okay? And probation officers use this. We have jails that use this. We have universities using it as an entrance to before they come on to actually study for that semester as the common values for the university. We have this in application all over. We have it in Boy Scouts and Girl Scouts and the Boys and Girls Clubs. So they use this as a tool to get this. The other thing is, if you qualify as an educator or as a correctional officer, there's educator kits that we can send to you free of charge if you do the course first and you find this is something you can use and apply, because it's literally an add, water, and mix program. And anyone can actually deliver it, but you need to be understanding the precepts and the concepts of these core values to be able to deliver it. So these are things we offer for free. And we have many, many, many businesses around the world that buy for $2 a piece right now. One of these books is $2. For 12, it's $24 in the United States. And you can get your own cover and your own picture on the book. And it could be your picture, or it could be your business's picture, or it could be the logo of the mayor, it could be the police department shield. I mean, the variety is unlimited because it was allowed to do that with this book, to make it your own, to give it as your gift. Because the first pages says, why I give you this book. And when you say this to someone with integrity, they will cry. You say, because your survival is important to me. And you hand it to that individual because you mean it. And if you can actually touch a life by giving it those things that your parents knew and your grandparents knew, and what the people that founded this country and created great civilizations knew, if you could just give them that tool to lead them, a compass in life, not telling them what to do, not evaluating for their past transgressions or evaluating for what they have done, but just give them the simplicity of common sense to recenter their thinking and to give them hope that they could actually change for the better and be happy. Because people are unhappy when they do and violate the precepts contained in this law. And it's not religious. That's the miracle of it. It can go in any school because it's not religious and it's not political. This was well before all the politics. This was actually something through history, was a common denominator that made civilizations and people great. I mean, the last chapter, one of the last chapters, it talks about the virtues. And when you talk about a character and a character of an individual, it's what he writes in life. Character comes from the word scribe, and scribe is to etch or write. So how does the person write his history? He writes it by what he does. And if he uses justice, loyalty, good sportsmanship, fairness, honesty, kindness, consideration, compassion, self-control, tolerance, forgiveness, belief, respect, politeness, dignity, admiration, friendliness, love, and you did it with integrity, you then have somebody that is emoting out. They're out there, and they're helping others by being an example and setting a good example as what a being should be, what a competent person should do in life. And what happens in their environment? They get back loyalty. They get back compassion. They get back trustworthiness. It's magical, simple, and it's the truth. And that's why this book is in 33 countries and well over 130 million copies in print, in all these languages. In fact, you want Spanish, Portuguese, Russian, French, English, We did one in Nepalese yesterday. So it's like all of this is part of a movement. It's a movement to turn things back around for the positive. It's a movement to create a better world. And February 22nd, 26th, I apologize, February 26th is our book's National Set a Good Example Day. And you can apply setting a good example in your life by doing that day and every day to set a good example in life, and you're going to have a better world and a better workplace, a better family. And this is our gift to you this holiday season.
Well, Mr. Alpers, it's been a pleasure to have you on the show. And February 26th or before that, we'll have you on the show again so we can promote this, set a good example to the whole country and the world. And I wanted to say something as president of the Time for Truth Foundation on the show that you're on right now. We want to invite the Way to Happiness to the World Conference of Mayors. I spoke to Mayor Johnny Ford today, and he said, have Mr. Alpers come down January 30th, 31st in Orlando. Harlem Globetrotter Bobby C. Hunter is looking forward to meeting you. He runs Artists Against Violence, and we're looking forward to seeing you in D.C. at that International Religious Forum. And you know what? Very exciting talk we had tonight. If I invite you back, will you come again?
Ben, I will come anytime you're available. Okay? And thank you for the time, and thank you for accepting me tonight. And I wish everyone a very happy holidays and the best for the new year, because let's flourish and prosper. Let's flourish and prosper with common sense. And we're there for you at twth.org.
There you go. And you know what? In Passover and in Easter, we celebrate Jesus. We celebrate the coming of the Messiah. And I've spoken to so many of my religious friends. We all have a little piece of God inside of us. Let's bring that concept early this year for the holidays and celebrate it all year long. From a Time for Truth show, it's been a pleasure having you. Have a great holiday. Thank you, Mr. Alpers. Good night.
Thank you.
This show was sponsored by A Time for Truth Foundation Incorporated as a community service.
Sometimes life can be so damn hard. You don't know where to go. Everything keeps falling apart. Yeah. You try to do your best, but only God knows that you've given everything you've got, but the world takes you down. You just keep moving on. Let your feet